Welcome to the Action Shooting Show. I'm going to do a quick discussion on gear and gear for the shooting sports. And while we do talk about it, we try to give you guys some good information on it and kind of based off what we found. You know, we've all been, for some of us on this show, we've been shooting for close to 10 years. So we've seen a lot of stuff. We see what works, we see what doesn't work. But one thing we always want to do is keep it in perspective for you guys. So if you are starting out, this is kind of for people who are starting out in the shooting sports. If you are just getting into it, there's kind of two things I want you to keep in mind. Um, One is that you do want to have good gear. We don't want to minimize the importance of good gear, but we also don't want to make it seem like it's a bigger deal than it is. Because there's two sayings maybe that will sum this up, and one is it's the Indian, not the arrow. So I could swap. There's guys we've shot with. Sean Murphy, some people know him, is a good example. We could swap guns, and I have a feeling his gear is like way nicer than my gear. We could swap guns, and he's still gonna mop the floor in a match with me. Like it doesn't matter. My gun could not be zeroed. He's probably still gonna beat me. Phenomenal shooter. Now he puts the work into his gear, but he's gonna beat me because he's a better shooter. The second phrase though is good enough is good enough. And what I mean by that is after a certain point, yes, you can optimize, you can do things. This is a little bit better for this situation. This is a little bit better for that situation. But good enough is good enough. If don't get wrapped around the wheels of like always switching guns, always switching this. This is the third trigger I've had in this year. I'm trying different triggers. I've had 5 different scopes. This is the second or third pistol. Like, if something's working, just stick with it until you find a good reason to change. And that's kind of been my philosophy for a long time. Now, Mike, who's on this show, phenomenal. He's a better shooter than I am. He likes playing with gear. His gear doesn't really change a ton. I mean, as much as he likes to tinker with stuff, he really doesn't change a ton, and it kind of stays undone. But he does experiment with different setups, or he'll build this rifle and play with this or this scope, or and he'll run stuff for a long time, so it's not like it's always changing. But he does kind of like to try to look for that next little bit of an edge, which is a valid thing to do. But when you're first getting into the sport, a good trigger, like you can do it with a mil-spec trigger. There's no reason not to. If you want to buy a little bit nicer trigger, it's kind of nice. It doesn't hurt anything. But I would kind of encourage you, don't try every trigger on the market. Find out, do I like a 2-stage or do I like a 1-stage trigger? If you like a 2-stage trigger, buy a LaRue, buy a Geisley, stop there. Buy a SSAE, SDE, whatever, the LaRue, whatever, whichever one of those your budget fits, and that's good enough. Single stage, I don't really keep up with that. I'm sure there's a ton of really good single stage triggers. Find one that people seem to like. Maybe go test a couple. Buy it. Just be done with it. Like go on, spend your money on ammo, spend your money on maybe other key gear. But with this conversation, also pay attention to what the top guys use in the sport you're doing, and it's probably not a bad idea to somewhat model that. I don't think I have my belt around here. Yeah, here it is. Sorry. For running gun, this holster, SLS or ALS holster. A ton of people in run and gun run this. This is a really good holster. You could run. I should have had this stuff ready. Just a plain Kydex. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with this. This retains a gun. Okay. Doesn't really have a lot of retention. So I don't know that I recommend this for running gun. If this is what you got, well, don't go into debt buying better things. But this would work. But if you're buying it from scratch, you're just getting into it, and you're like, hey, I want to do this. I want to get a holster for running gun. Well, just buy that and be done with it. Don't buy 20 of them just to see that, oh, you know what, the guys who've been doing the sport for a long time. I mean, at the top, not saying every single person that wins a match is going to be using an ALS, but if Safari Lane makes a holster for their gun, I'd be really surprised if they weren't. Just the nature of the sport. 3-gun, that's not the case. I got a Weber tactical that I used for years in 3-gun. That was really great. If you're shooting open, you may have like one of the ghost holsters or something. There's a lot of different stuff, but you'll pretty quickly see a trend, and that's what I would go with. Um, so buy once, cry once certainly exists. Do a little bit of homework, but just don't get into the habit of just always buying new things. I've seen guys that always got something new, and their guns rarely, I don't say rarely, a lot of times I see malfunctions. I mean, even quality gear can malfunction because tolerance stacking this trigger, even though someone has put a Geisley trigger in a gun and it didn't work. And it wasn't necessarily the Geisley's fault. It could have been the lower's fault. Both of them could be top quality things. I mean, I've seen top quality gun parts from like major manufacturers with tolerance stacking not work together. So if you're always changing, you're always tweaking, you're always trying that, I just need this to get that next edge. I mean, that's fine if that's your hobby. If you just want to spend money on things, like, do it. But I would encourage you that you don't need that to be successful, do well, and have fun, because not everyone's out there to win. A lot of people are doing this for the fun of it. And if buying things is fun, do it. But if you're wanting to get better at it, you're using this as an ability to kind of learn and get better. Just be smart with your money. Kind of pay attention to what people are using. And then if it's good enough, spend that extra money on ammo. Spend that extra time instead of tweaking it or re-zeroing your third optic. Like, go run drills. You're never going to buy your way into the podium. You can certainly buy gear that'll keep you out of the podium because it doesn't work. But once that's good enough, just keep riding it. I mean, I've beat plenty of people at matches that had guns way, 3 times as much money in their gear as I did. And then I've been beat by people who had way less money in their gear. So as long as it works and it's reliable, just kind of go with it. So didn't want to make this too long, but I just know there's a lot of people. I see it every day. What's the best holster? What's the best this? And it kind of doesn't matter. If it works, it works. Use it, get on with it, and that's what I would do. The one last thing I'll say, because I know a lot of people that get in these sports, they get on message boards, they get on like the Facebook, the run and gun discussions, and they ask questions. I see questions in there every day on what to buy. And some of the answers I see are fairly suspect at times. I see people that have no business giving advice because they barely make it through a match saying, oh, this is the best, this is what you need. And it's the best because that's the one they bought and that's the only one they've bought. So I would vet your information. Don't take my word for it. Most days I'm not. I can do well some days. Most days I'm not much better than mid-pack shooter. I've just kind of been around and seen a lot. I'm not at the stage in my shooting career, if you want to call it, whatever. In this hobby that I'm not practicing a lot. Family doesn't give me time to compete at that higher level. Some of the levels I used to be able to do a little bit better at, but I can still put down some good stage time. So it's not that I don't know anything, but look at these people giving advice. Maybe get on practice score and search for them and see like what they're doing. We got Mike Ford on here, wins and places high. If he's outside the top 10 at a run and gun, it's pretty surprising. He's a top 3 shooter at tons of the matches he goes to. If he gives you a piece of advice, I'd listen to that. That guy that shows up to 1 match, 2 matches a year, he's in the last 10%, like he's towards the end of the pack. I'm not saying he can't have good advice, but if your goal is to win, listen to what winners say. If your goal is just to have fun and try a bunch of different gear, well then find the guy that buys every different piece of gear and follow his advice. Hope this is helpful to somebody. I know it's really easy to go gear chasing, and again, if that's your hobby, some people just like to spend money on their hobby. Cool. But you could be smarter about it, and especially if money is tight, as with inflation and life, and I mean, it's not the cheapest hobby in the world. Not everyone can just go out and buy 600, scopes to see which one they like. So that's my advice for kind of listening to what other people have and kind of settling into something and just run with it. So hope it helps. You guys see you out in the range.